This is going to get nuts. 8 teams are taking the field this wild card weekend. Each one has a shot at the Lombardi. But how wild would it be if they actually won the Super Bowl? Here's what we're going to do, my friends. Each of us is going to take one of the teams playing this weekend and tell you where they stack up on our own personal wild scale. On one end of the scale, the least wild, most boring, most predictable thing we've ever done, or however we want to define it. On the other end of the scale, the craziest, most wild, semi-legal thing we've ever done, and the team will land somewhere between 1 and 10 to win the entire thing. And I turn now to @PSchrags on Twitter.com.
Yeah, on Twitter.com.
Mr. Wildman.
I'm a fairly new father. My son is 2 years old, so I'm entering a whole different part of my life. And wild has a different definition than it did when I was in my 20s and when I was in my 30s as a bachelor. Things are a little different right now. So let me explain. On the 1 on my scale is this item right here. This item right here is a fanny pack. It is not wild, it is not crazy, it is not for style. It is strictly for utility. This is what I use. I wrap this thing around my waist and I take it everywhere. I go to the club, I'm wearing a fanny pack. I go to a nice restaurant, I'm wearing a fanny pack. It's got my phone charger, my keys, it's got my kids' toys, and it's got all the other junk I need as a dad. Not wild at all, not stylish at all, not cool at all. Exactly
on the beach?
1 on the scale. On the beach, yes.
It's a little bougie. Like, it's not a JanSport, you know? Like, it's a nice fanny pack.
It's a fanny pack. I'm taking it everywhere I go. I'm like the Chargers. Just bring me on the road. Just give me my fanny pack.
Has anybody ever given you any grief
Yes.
for the fanny pack?
Kay, you were there. I walked into a hotel lobby in California.
Yeah.
Kay was sitting there having a lunch with Steve Smith, the NFL Network executive, and Steve Smith walked out of the hotel lobby because he would not be seen with me as I wore my fanny pack. Moving on to number 10. I mentioned the fatherhood thing. With that becomes an entirely different world of entertainment. I'm not watching reruns of Cops like I did in my 20s, and I'm not watching Always Sunny marathons for 12 straight days. What I am watching instead is this show called Peppa Pig.
Talk about it!
If you don't know about Peppa,
Talk about Peppa!
is a British cartoon in which Peppa Pig, George, Daddy Pig, and I'll tell you what, Daddy Pig, it's a raw deal. They treat Daddy Pig like some buffoon. Everyone else is laughing. I'm not laughing about the Daddy Pig
They
joke.
punked it up. They punked the Daddy Pig. Patriarch.
The wildest thing I have done in the last 2 years since my son is born, I have watched all 256 freaking episodes of Peppa Pig. I have binged on Peppa Pig. Some people do The Wire. Other people do Breaking Bad. I'm a Peppa Pig
Take
snob.
that, Game of Thrones.
You went from Salt and Pepper to Peppa Pig.
Yes, I did. And I love the Peppa, okay? I'm here for it.
You're like, I got in 9 episodes of Peppa
Have you
last
ever
night.
seen
I
the show?
just binged it. I'm like, I'm an athlete. I just
Televathlete? That's what Gaffigan calls it.
What a man.
Schrags, you are.
Peppa Pig? Oh, my favorite part is the amazing hijinks they get into.
They go on vacation sometimes. We got the books, too, at our house.
Yeah, Grandma Pig.
Does Mel just love it, though?
Yeah, he loves it. All right. That's my 1, that's my 10, okay? And my assignment's the Eagles. But before I give you where I put them on how wild it would be for them to have a Super Bowl run, let me take you back to late November. The Eagles were 6-6, and we had a magician and a telepathic mind come into the studio. His name is Colin Cloud. I don't know if you guys remember this. This was when the Eagles were 6-6. Colin Cloud, the illusionist, came into the show.
Okay, open up your eyes.
Yeah.
Tell us the first name of the person you were thinking
Matt.
of. Matt, okay. And what was the name? You can open your eyes, Kyle. What was the name of the person you were thinking? First name?
Daniel.
Daniel, Matthew. What was the number you were thinking?
Matt Forte, number 22.
Matt Forte, and
Crazy thing is, as he's leaving, he whispers in my ear, and I'm like, what's he going to say? And he's like, the Eagles are winning the Super Bowl again. And I'm like, what? I'm like, what? That happened. As he's on his way out, Colin Cloud, look him on Google, he's a telepathic mind, said the Eagles are winning the Super Bowl again. So on my scale, I now have the Nick Foles story, the future reader in this thing. Let's see where I put the Eagles winning the Super Bowl on my wild scale. It's happening.
Is it a fanny pack?
It's happening. It's happening. There are too many signs.
You got a message from the clouds?
I got a message from Colin the Cloud.
Not a coincidence.
He came down here. He said at 6-6, the Eagles are winning the Super Bowl. Guys, I would be a fool not to believe him. I'm going with the Eagles. They're winning it all.
That's wild, Schrags.
It's not that wild. It's a 1.
Peppa.
All right,
So for me, let's start with the 0 on my scale. Now, New Year's for me used to be the ultimate turn up. I would always turn up. It's Vegas. It's kicking it with the homies, kicking it with the wife. We're everywhere. I think last year I pulled all-nighter and came straight to the studio.
Yeah.
So
You think?
we would get it in.
Yeah, Nate was great in the 7A segment.
Yeah.
That
It was awesome. I remember it.
But this year, it was different.
Okay.
So on the 0 end of least wild, I played Life with the kids at 7 p.m. It's a true story.
The game of life?
Board
The
game.
game of life, the board game. We just sat back, we chilled, and we played Life. I went to bed around 10:45 and didn't see the ball drop. I wanted to be ready for work because we worked a 4-hour show, came back, worked a 3-hour show. That's the least wild. 37-year-old Nate, I don't need to party that much anymore. Now, most wild. Growing up, 4 boys in the household. I was number 3. Being the third, you got to do things to get attention. I mean, I used to do things like swallow quarters, rocks, and go up to my mom and dad and say, hey, I swallowed a quarter, I swallowed a rock, just so they can give me attention. But, you know, I would always steal my brother's clothes and wear them to get their attention.
Yeah.
There were times where everybody would leave the house, I'd take my dad's clippers, and I'd just go bald. So when they got home, they would see me and be shocked and be like, what did you do? I loved it, right? So moving forward, that same kid still exists inside of me, and I did in the NFL. I just want a little bit of attention. You know, playing for certain teams that didn't get a lot of praise, I wanted to make sure people paid attention to me. So when I was in Detroit, I had a hairstyle, and I look back at it now, I'm just like, what we got? Thinking.
What?
Oh, yeah. Wow. This is it. This is in the hotel before the game.
Hey, you're dressed?
Yeah. It's my shirt off. I'm in the hotel.
Okay.
Before the game, my barber's like, hey, traditional cut. I'm like, nah, did you bring the dye? He's like, I got dye. I was like, give me a part across the middle that doesn't make sense. He's like, cool. So, yeah, that's me starving for attention. So next time you see a football player with that type of hairstyle, just walk up to him and say, who hurt you?
Did you swallow quarters as a child?
Swallow rocks as a child. Who hurt you?
It's like they were paying attention to Calvin and not you.
Yeah, just
You had
give
to
me some
swallow a
attention.
quarter.
It's a true story. That's why I did all the crazy
What year
stuff.
was that?
That was like
Everyone's talking
2013.
about, everyone's talking about Titus Young. Let
Yeah.
me dye my hair blonde instead.
Look at me!
Enough with the Mike Furry. Look at me.
Brandon Pettigrew, enough.
Enough. All right, so with that said, my team is the Seattle Seahawks. Okay, so would it be wild for these guys to win the Super Bowl? I'm going to go 8. I'm going to say yes. And you're thinking, well, are you saying that they're not good enough to win the Super Bowl? No, I'm not saying that because they are good enough. I'm saying that it would be wild because Russell Wilson at this point in his career, this young, would have 2 Super Bowls under his belt and 3 Super Bowl appearances. That is a wild story in itself, given the fact that this team hasn't had a running game since Marshawn Lynch. The Legion of Boom is falling apart. Russell Wilson gets paid too much money. They can't build around him, yet they're in the playoffs. And I know we're all as equally as scared for Russell Wilson to be in the Super Bowl as any other team. So for me, I'm going with the 8. If Russell Wilson figures out a way to get his team to the Super Bowl, that's 3 trips, 2 rings, just go ahead and give him his Hall of Fame jacket. And that's wild.
Can we see that hair again? That hair was absolutely
Oh, man.
wild. 2013, Nate.
And I would do it now, but my wife said, you're too corporate. You can't do that. You're on TV every day.
Now,
Yeah,
if you
that
watch
sounds like
Peppa
a-
the Pig with
Hey,
hair
look at that
shreds,
guy.
you really have something.
Nate, did you watch Peppa with that hair or no?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Peppa gets after
Why
it,
does that
guys.
look bottom right?
I don't know, man. Look at that part. The part doesn't make sense.
Nate,
Where did there's some matching going on, you know?
Oh, man. The Ravens.
Kyle.
Curtains
And
match
they're